Magnanimous. So magnanimous. This podcast is scrumptious. Good evening, everyone, or good morning, or good day, wherever you're listening to this podcast. This is Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials have gushed over an actor's journey from their early years throughout their blockbuster hits. And this season, we are wrapping up on Will Smith. And today's episode will be about none other than inside the actor's studio. We're dunking our Lipton tea, baby, and we are going to be visiting Will Smith's episode on Inside the Actor's Studio and also some ranking of our movies throughout this season.
Yes, because what is an actor if they have not been critiqued by Mr. James Lipton on Inside the Actor's Studio?
Right.
Which also, I didn't know they continued that. Like, there's a new iteration of that without him. I think, because I was trying to find a still of Will for my background, and I saw like I want to say it was like Emma Thompson or somebody, but it was like a newer, like sleeker Inside the Actor's Studio.
Wait, Emma Thompson was the actress or the interviewer?
It looked like the interviewer, but I don't know. They were in some swanky white chairs.
Okay, I would mess with that. That sounds fun. Do you know if it's like still run by like the acting class? Because like that was typically the audience that made up the show.
I don't know. Let's see. Oh yeah, new episodes aired January 2018, so it came back in 2018, or did it come back before that? With episodes,
I don't remember when James Lipton passed.
5 episodes aired in 2017, so it looks like they've done it here and there. This episode is a deep dive into Inside the Actor's Studio and where has it been and where is it going? Oh, it looks like, okay, it kind of, it reminds me of, I don't know which magazine it is, but on YouTube there's a series where it's like actors on actors. So this now looks like actors interview each other. So what I was thinking was Jane Lynch interviewing David Oyelowo. Okay. Sorry if I butchered that. And then there's a list with like Alec Baldwin interviews Henry Winkler, Kelsey Grammer interviews James Burrows, who's a director. But so
interesting. I kind of like that, like two actors interviewing or like one actor interviewing the other. That's an interesting concept because it doesn't look like there's a new host, and James Lipton died 2020.
Really?
Yeah, but I think he was sick. He was 93 years old.
I don't know why I thought he passed before.
Yeah. So we love you, Lipton. You know what? You bet that Lipton and Lil Raj, LL and Bean, are hanging out up there, just still watching movies and talking shit.
I think we said that last time.
Probably, but it is worth mentioning again.
There's got to be like a hell of a movie night / club going on the other side.
Do you think they fight about what they're watching? They're like, no, I want to watch Wedding Planner. No.
Okay. So I saw this TikTok of this lady. I don't know what, maybe she's clairvoyant. I don't know. She could contact the dead somehow, so to speak. And so she calls it peaks. And she does this for regular people too, but on TikTok she specifically does celebrities. So I think I ran across the one for Mac Miller, so it's like me peeking on Mac Miller. So she her daughter or somebody gave her Mac Miller because she doesn't know who he is, and as a challenge for her. And so she says sometimes in the afterlife, like that like when she peeks on people, it's like they're doing a certain thing or like in a certain space or room or place. And sometimes if she's done it multiple times, they're still in that place. But so like Mac Miller was like in a studio, like at a soundboard and like doing music stuff. So I imagine that like James Lipton and Lil Raj are like in screening rooms, like watching movies and like you know, doing what they love, essentially. She said, I watched one for Tupac. She said Tupac was writing and he had like all these like notebooks around him and books and stuff, which like makes so much sense because that's what he did, like whether it was poetry or, you know, obviously raps. But yeah, so that's what I imagine these two movie men to be doing, just
Yeah.
like in their own little private screening room, like, huh.
Throwing the popcorn.
Or maybe they're like watching the Oscars and stuff. So inside the Actors Studio episode, this era of Will Smith is fairly early in his career.
Mm-hmm.
Now knowing what he has went on to do. So this is around the Ali era. James
Mm-hmm.
Lipton mentioned seeing clips of Ali, so Ali wasn't even released
They were
yet.
just on the cusp of the premiere of the movie, and this episode in particular was season 8, episode 2. I thought it was the premiere,
I
but
thought it was one.
I looked it up like on a database because I wanted to see the air date of it, but on Ovation it says one, but I think technically Kevin Costner was one and Will was two.
Oh.
Kevin Costner came in like early December. Um, or so no, sorry. Kevin Costner came in at around like November 2001, so like right after 9/11. And then they like had some time off and Will came back
Mm.
January 13th of 2002 was when his episode aired. So they might have filmed it prior and like maybe had some stuff in the can like pre or post 9/11 and then like tried to figure out how to release it.
Oh,
Is my guess.
9/11 throwing us in a tizzy. So,
God damn, as always. But yes, you're right. Up to this point, he had just wrapped Ali and was getting ready for the premiere of that. So it would have been interesting to have an Inside the Actor Studio that was maybe a little bit later but of course, Ali is nothing to scoff at. That was like a huge role and a real like turn in Will's career, I think. So, but it still would have been cool to maybe have maybe like 5 more movies under his belt to do this show.
yeah, because I mean, and it's funny because I feel like J-Lo's we said the same thing. Like hers was really early, and we're like,
Mm-hmm.
man, like she did so much like more afterwards that kind of would have been a little more interesting to talk about.
Hers was right up to the cell,
It
or
says 2004.
okay,
So it was around Bennifer time.
yeah.
So up to Geely at
Up
least,
to Julie.
Jersey
Oh,
girl.
that's right. I think he made a little Geely joke.
Yeah,
They skipped
but
over it, yeah.
yeah, because I remember her being like, I don't regret that, like, I
Right.
learned from that experience and, all that stuff. But like after that, she did Border Town and
Yeah.
El Cantante and An Unfinished Life and all these kind of Lila and Eve, like all these kind of a little more not so like huge, big, showy roles. But obviously, Will went on to get nominated for an Oscar for Ali and then
Mm-hmm.
do movies like Pursuit of Happiness, 7 Pounds, I Am Legend.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been amazing to talk about. So maybe they can both do it again now that we know that it's not defunct.
What
What
if
if they interviewed each other?
it
Manifestation
would blow
gods.
my fucking mind? Like, yeah, I feel like we've manifested some stuff for this podcast, so I'm just putting that energy out there into
I'm
the
gonna
world.
write that TikTok down so maybe somebody. So, talking about Big Willie on Inside the
Um,
Actor Studio.
and talking about getting jiggy with it with James Lipton. Oh my goodness, Bria, do you think James Lipton can get jiggy with it?
I think he sounds like he was very certain that he could.
He
So,
was in a frisky mood. He was more frisky with Will Smith than like, and when I say frisky, I mean just like he was, there's always a little like deviousness and
yeah.
cheekiness, but I was like, James Lipton's having fun. It was really
Yes.
fun. I hope if you're listening to this episode and you haven't watched that episode, press pause on this and come back later. But you can find these Inside the Actor Studio episodes for free on ovationtv.com. You can literally just type in your Google search like Will Smith Inside the Actor Studio. It's like the first link that comes up. The episodes are around 25 minutes because they've cut the commercials out, which is also really kind of nice. Um, and it's a great interview. I know it's about Will Smith, but I really have to say that James Lipton like does his homework with interviewers, and I know a lot of questions are the same, especially the same ones that he asks at the end to everybody, but you can tell that he like curates the conversation based off of the
The
different guests
person.
that he has.
Yeah.
And even Will was surprised at some point. He was just like, You really did your homework because he was
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, this is your grandma's name and this is the church you went to." And he was just like,
Yeah.
"Wow."
It reminded me of this is where we are in culture, but it reminded me of Hot Ones because
Yes.
he also does really well. That team, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a team of researchers, but they do really good research, and a lot of times they catch the guests off guard. And I think especially because it's like a YouTube show and it's like you're eating hot wings and they're
Hmm.
asking you questions, but a lot of the times they will like bring up something and the person will be like, wait, damn, how do you know about that?
Yeah.
Like, and so I got a little bit of that feeling with James Lipton. So he's the OG. Sean
Yeah.
learned his skill set probably from little James Lipton. But
Probably.
I starting off, my first note is when Will comes out. I think the whole interview you can tell he's like really excited to be there, and
Yes.
like, but one of the first things he says is like, you don't know how long I've been waiting to be on this show.
Yes.
And I think that says a lot about him because I feel like this show is definitely, and I felt like we may have talked about this with JLo's too, is that like it's definitely one of those kind of things you can like put in your hat and be like, as an actor
Hmm.
that you've been asked to do this. It's kind of one of those things that just maybe puts a stamp on your career a little bit. Like I got the James Lipton like stamp of like,
Yeah.
being worthy enough to discuss my career and have acting students ask me questions and stuff. So
Yes. It is when you might say high praise, I
it
feel,
is
for
high
an
praise.
actor
I
to
feel
be.
like we haven't said that a lot this season. Bring back the high praise. I
That's
mean,
high
plenty of
praise.
high praise for Will, but I feel like
Yes.
we lost that little saying along the way.
I think I made the same note too. I said he seems genuinely excited to be here and overall grateful. And this is different from other interviews that we've seen him in where maybe he's a little bit more reserved. Maybe like if
Mm-hmm.
he's on Good Morning America or maybe like a press junket, he might be a little bit more like professional. And it's not that he wasn't professional, but I felt like like answered every question extremely honestly and long. Like they were not short one-off responses. He went into detail about his dad, about his family, about growing up and hard work and all that stuff. And there was times where I don't think James Lipton like felt uncomfortable and stuff, but I felt like he was like as an interviewer, you're probably like, yes, like so excited when you can have someone that you can really engage with.
Yeah, because you can tell when celebrities have media training and
Yes.
they're saying the thing that will get them the least like clickbaity like headlines and like
Yeah.
things that can get taken out of context. But I don't think these interviews tend to skew that way anyways. But sometimes if you are giving an answer long enough, you may like venture off and say some shit that you're like, oh shit, I should have reeled that back. But yeah, I feel like because he's so excited to be here on this platform and stage that he really respected opening up and answering the questions and especially like talking about your childhood. Like some people wouldn't want to talk about that.
Hmm.
I don't think Will would not want to, but funny enough, like a lot of the stuff he mentioned, a lot of it is also in his book later on. But like
Hmm.
having gone through all most of his interviews so far, I haven't heard this until
Yes.
like his book stuff. So this was at this time definitely very like one of his more revealing like personal interviews.
Yes, I agree with that.
um my next note is about the number one answer, which is also talked about a lot in his book, which is funny enough because I just listened to the chapter where he talks about this. But I think it's very interesting, like when I read his book, but when he talks about it on here too, it's very interesting to hear how basically code switching is a huge part of Will's kind of childhood and upbringing, and also I think a very relevant part of his career. So the number one answer is like his kind of belief or answer to comedy, where like
Mm.
it's the joke that both like for him at least, both white people and black people are going to laugh at, but for different reasons. And that ability to like be able to like know what this group of people is going to find funny and know what this group of people is going to find funny, but also like want to simultaneously appeal to them. I think some comedians find that just out of just being funny, like,
Right.
it's just undeniably funny. But I think there's a, just like most of his roles, there's a real thought process, I think, for Will with that. And his upbringing, at least, he went to Catholic school, which he talks
Hmm.
about. And so he was in a predominantly white school and with white kids, in school. But then he grew up in this neighborhood that was predominantly black. His church was black. And
Hmm.
so, like, having to live kind of in these duality, like, places at times, he had to learn both. And I
Hmm.
think that attributes to his crossover success and appeal as
Yes.
an actor. So I think
Yes.
that was really important to talk about. And so amazing that James Lipton was able to bring that up in a way that he would talk about that.
Hmm. And also, I didn't know that Will's high school name was Overbrook. And
Yeah,
that's
I
where
didn't know
he
that
got,
either.
so that's probably where he got the inspo for his production company, right?
Yes, I as soon as I heard him say that, I was like Overbrook, and I was like, that's the name of his production company with James Lasseter, and I'm like, damn. I read the book, none of that came up. Like,
Dang.
and then you have Westbrook too, which
Mm.
I don't know exactly. It's probably just a spin on on, oh, maybe West Philadelphia and Overbrook,
Oh,
or
maybe.
yeah. So yeah, I was like, oh my god, that's crazy. I would love to know why he chose to name it after his high school, because I would never
I
name anything
wonder.
I did after Rodriguez High School.
I wonder though if there maybe he had like a drama teacher or like got involved in that way that made him feel particularly connected to that school. He also told the story that he would like write stories and sell them to people. And then
I
also
feel like
in
that's when he was younger, but like his
right, yeah,
rap
yeah,
career started
yeah,
in
his
high school.
that's when
Yeah,
he met Jazzy Jeff, and he was like, nothing feels cooler than being a senior in high school and having a song on the radio.
yeah. Or I wonder too. I know him and James are like longtime friends, but I'm not sure if they went to high school together. So that could be
Mm.
like maybe they met there, and that's why they named it Overbrook. But I love to hear uh, an answer more about that. But yeah, even talking about like him, like I loved when James was asking him questions about rap, because I think Will was like, cool, like I'm taken seriously as an actor. I get to
Hmm.
talk about acting and that stuff, and people will get to see me that way. And I think it was like, I think he was taken off, like, not off put, but like taken aback that he was being asked about music sometimes, but like very excited to talk about it too.
Yeah.
So that was fun to
I
hear.
I think that that also contributed to his freestyle part because James, some interviews you prepare for, and I don't think people, when they go on Inside the Actor Studio, if they fully know like all the questions that they're going to be asked.
No,
So,
probably not. Yeah.
and so there was that moment where James was like, because I don't know your music. And when I think what he meant was like younger generation music, not necessarily like rap or hip hop, or maybe that's what he meant. I don't know. But I was like, hold on, James, where are you going with this? But he was just like, because I don't really listen to your music. If you would humor me, like asking him to define jiggy
Yeah.
and then being like, and if you were to freestyle, it would be, and will like, I think for me that part felt a little uncomfortable because I think Will was also, I think, a little unprepared for
Yeah.
it versus like I feel like some rap artists get asked to do that a lot and maybe already like have a little something prepared.
Yeah. I don't know why I wrote this, but I said his freestyle you can tell he was really geeked to do this, and this is one of those experiences where you probably feel like you've got cred as an actor. So I don't know what I meant by that really. Like if he was geeked to freestyle or just like I think I meant like to do the interview. But I don't know, I thought he was willing to do the freestyle. The freestyle was funny and about, you know, doing the show and stuff, which he mentions being like excited to do the show and like chilling with his boy Jim and then he kind of stops. But
And someone in the audience like gives him a music like beat or something. Oh no, he gives a music beat when he dances, but then yes, someone else in the audience gives him like a beat. And then I like too when James asks like, "Do you remember the first 5 lines of Parents Just Don't Understand?" And Will's like, "Sure I do." And then the audience just automatically was like, like
yeah.
him out.
I was like, shit, I don't think I know the first 5 lines of Parents Just Don't Understand. But yeah, the rap portion, I think he was a little like, oh, I didn't know we were going to talk about music. Like, I thought this would strictly be about like my movies and stuff. But one thing I noted is how different his version of how he got like Fresh Prince and the Quincy Jones story is from the reunion story.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say like he's lying or anything. I think it's just really like a memory thing because like in this Inside the Actor Studio, he's like what, maybe in his early 30s and by the reunion he's like 50, so like 20 years later like maybe he remembers it a little differently. I
Has
think
false memories.
the main beats are there, you know, the main differences are kind of like he says in Inside the Actor Studio that like, you know, a few weeks later they are about to like shoot the pilot for Fresh Prince and he's like thinking to himself like, you know, somebody should ask me if I could act, like, but on the reunion he makes a point to be like Quincy is like audition now, like
at the dinner at that party.
At the party, yeah. And like, you know, now's the time to do it, like no thinking about it and all that stuff. Like all the people who are here to make the decision are here, so like how much time you need. And so I think that's the main difference. But I think probably the overall story is like pretty much the same. But I was like, that's crazy how a funny memory is, like.
Yeah.
Oh, also going back to when he dances, I think it's really funny that he thinks he can't dance.
That's what I thought too. I was really taken aback because I was like, you could have pulled out your like fun Fresh Prince moves, like some of the stuff that you were doing in your early music videos. Like, is it classically trained point ballet?
Jackson,
no, but like he can still dance. I was really surprised. Yes, I was surprised. That's what they were doing. They're going na 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 na.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's funny because he said that multiple times. Like even the reunion, like when he's like, you gotta do it one more time, and they do it. And he's like, I can never do this. And it's like, yes, you can. You don't do it how Alfonso does it, but you do it. Like,
yes.
And I think it's funny because like we talked about in the reunion episodes, like one of the most iconic scenes, just because I feel like it's been gifted and gifted to death, is the scene when Ashley's drumming, or Jazz is drumming on Ashley's drums that she gets, and Will's dancing and like kind of like doing the Running Man and that kind of stuff. The episode when they're in Vegas and they do the dun, 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 you know, that's a dance. There's plenty of other. There's the one where he's dancing and cleaning his car and like, you know, just kind of grooving. So there's plenty of moments of Will dancing, let alone the Men in Black video, like where he has like a whole like, let me do slide with me, just slide. Like the Miami video or no, Getting Jiggy with It has the dance sequence at the end. So it's like you've done all these things where you dance. And you could definitely be like, nah, I'm a rapper. I don't do dances, but you do. So like,
It
why are you
reminds
like?
me of the song in High School Musical too, when he's just like, I just don't dance. I know you can. And they're dancing about a song that says, I just don't dance, while they
I know.
also dance play baseball at the same time.
Oh God.
That's what that last night reminded me of. And I made a note to it. I was like, I feel like he's holding back.
You know what I think it is? I think that it's an insecurity, maybe, and I think that he really wishes he was like a
Mm.
like a good solid dancer, like a MJ maybe or something, or even maybe not a MJ, but like hip hop. It when he came up, like I love talking about House Party because they dance in that movie, and like even that kind of dance, like maybe he wasn't the best at it or something like that, and he really wishes he was like one of those guys, at that time. But I think he holds his own. So
Hmm.
I think it's one of those things where it's like you say you can't do something, but you kind of can, and so you want people to kind of like, no, yeah, you can.
You
Like
can
I
do
love the way you
it.
dance, and he's like, oh, okay, because I can't really like do the Carlton like that. It's like, no, it's
Yeah.
great. What are you talking about? So that was great. Any talking points, like anything, any quotes you wrote down?
Yes, I'm rolling with Tommy until the wheels fall off when he was talking about working with Tommy Lee Jones on Men in Black. He's like, I will roll with Tommy until the wheels fall off. And I just thought that that was really funny. I've never heard that.
And Men in Black 2 was about to come out because at the
Yes,
end they talk about Ollie and Men in Black 2, and
yes.
he was like, "What can we expect?" And he's like, "Oh well, the special effects definitely have like changed, so that's good." And I think it's really funny, and that they just kind of got back in the groove of things. And I think
Hmm.
that's true, despite how you mostly felt about that movie, that it wasn't as good. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was riding high there.
Yes.
Um,
But he also talks about the correlation between rap music and acting, which I thought was really
yes,
interesting. That
which I screen recorded, so I
ooh,
will be sharing that.
he said you have to be strong, dominant, and assertive for both. I was like, those are very masculine terms, which I just
Yeah.
thought was very interesting.
Yeah, I like I had to pause and like go
Yes,
back
me
and like type
too.
out like the quote. So I thought that was a great question to ask him, because I don't feel like I've heard anybody ask him that. Or I know that when I think it was like Vibe or Jet, I saw an article. I think it was Jet. It was like rappers turned actors, and it was like obviously Will kind of led the way there, but it was like a bunch, like a lot of who he mentioned: LL Cool J, DMX, Queen Latifah, and it was an article about that. But I don't think anyone's asked him in an interview like,
Hmm.
what do you think about this? Why do you think this is like working so well? And I didn't know. We talked about it a little bit, and I was like, I don't know why rappers are such good actors, especially because with J Lo, we talked about how rare it is for a pop star to be an act like a good
Hmm.
actress, or an actress to be a solid pop star. So it's so interesting that I feel like there's not a rapper who's tried to act where it's just been like so bad that you're just like, really?
Yeah.
Like
Unless it
um
was supposed to be bad, intentional, funny on purpose.
well, I definitely think like there's probably some starter roles that, some rappers got, and maybe they're not in the greatest movies and shows and stuff, because there's a lot of, you know, black media that just doesn't have, the funding or anything, or, production and stuff that could be great maybe, but so it's a little bit budgeter, a little bit low budget.
Hmm.
So there are probably things like that where you're like this movie isn't great, so you can't really judge the acting too well. But so it all just seems like maybe low budget. But for the most part, I feel like you put a rapper in a movie or some or TV show spot here, like I think Offset, Cardi B's husband from the Migos. Like he was in some cop show or something like that, and people are like, why is Offset in this? Or Snoop Dogg's been in so many random things, and you're
Yeah.
like, why is Snoop Dogg in an SVU episode? Like, or he was in CSI, and
Uh-huh.
you're like, huh? Or so yeah, I feel like for the most part, like you might be off put by like why is so and so in this, but like for the most part, it's not like wow they really can't act or they're terrible. Like
Yeah.
it's like oh it's not bad. Like
Yeah.
Travis Barker was in a CSI episode and like not his next calling. So
It's not, as Lil Raj would say, it's not the vibes.
but the quote that he said is that in rap music, you have to defend yourself.
Hmm.
Rap music is really aggressive. There is no place for a lack of confidence in rap music. And there's some other stuff, but then he goes on to say when you take that energy, that strength, that bravado, it looks really good on camera. And there's something in rappers' eyes that gets created from having been able to create that defense through an offensive posture. To be in that space where you can be confident and you don't care what nobody says and how they come at you. And like be in a room and be like, yeah, I'm here. What? Like, and I thought that was brilliant because I was like, damn, I'm not that confident. So,
Hmm.
but it explains so much because that is very true. When I do want to feel confident or like a badass, most of the time I listen to rap. I'm like, let me listen to some Jay-Z because that man, he's never questioning himself. He's never like, do I have this? Do I not know? He's always like, I'm that dude. Like, and so most rappers are very much like that. So, I was like, man, why didn't I think of that? That was my probably my favorite moment of this interview because I was like, wow, spin facts. Go back.
There were lots of moments. Another time where I paused to write stuff down was when Will was talking about his philosophies on set, about being the first one there and the last person to leave. What to being an actor to him, it was like I wanted to be something, I wanted to be somebody, and it made me choose certain roles, and it made me turn down certain roles, but there's
Mm-hmm.
more than just an image to a project. There's like more things that you put into it, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, and that was from one of the student questions, right? Where it's like the
Yes.
teacher told them that wanting to be an actor stems from wanting to say something
Mm-hmm.
and having a voice. And I thought another important part of that, which I think comes up in his book too, is like how pleasing his mom and his grandma was a big factor for him wanting to be somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And when we talked about like his rap music and we appreciate it, we love it, but we can also be like, you know what, it is like a teensy bit corny. Corny is like a terrible like word for it. Would love to find a better word for it, but it's fun. It's not too serious. It's not like gritty or like gangsta rap or anything like that, and it's very clean. And that was like a big contention for him throughout his rap career. But a big part of that was because his grandma found his rap book and was like, I think you can say a lot of things without cursing and sound really intelligent doing this. Like, you don't need cursing to get your point across. And so I think it says something, especially about a man, to want to listen to his grandmother and be like, my grandma told me not to cuss, so I'm gonna do it, and I'm
Mm.
not gonna cuss, and be successful doing that. And so I think the influence the women in his life plays a big role. And if you think about like the Oscars incident, like pleasing women and not letting them down is a huge theme in Will's life. And so it I don't want to say it makes sense, but there are some connections there that like
Yes, yes. And it's
I was
interesting,
aha.
like little psychologist, like interesting. Um,
Yeah, his therapist is writing down things like oh.
it's also interesting for a man to also admit to stemming back from some of these like pleasing tendencies, especially to women, because we just don't hear that a lot. Like, I just don't, I feel like for men, it's very common for them to feel like they don't have to please anyone and that they, except for themselves, or like do something that's more self-fulfilling.
Yeah.
And that I just feel like you don't hear men admit that a lot.
And I feel like we're in this generation too where we're analyzing like the patriarchy in men and the male gaze. And a lot of times, like maybe for millennial men, which Will isn't, but that we see that they're very much like trying to please and impress other men more than like women. And that's where there's like this disconnect sometimes between the sexes
Mm,
because it's like you guys, like the joke, like a joke on TikTok is like all these gym bros, like you guys are just trying to impress each other. Like women don't care that much about that kind of stuff. Like, like all the muscles and the flexing and stuff. Like that's nice, but at the end of the day, like treating how you treat people, personality, interests,
mm-hmm.
like being smart, all that kind of stuff. Like that matters to a good amount of women. I won't say all because they're not all a monolith, but
Yeah.
the things that men find impressive, sometimes invaluable, tend to be like from the male gaze, whereas like I think maybe in Will's generation, it's all about impressing the chicks into like if you're a mama's boy, maybe I don't know if Will classifies himself as a mama's boy, but if you respect the women in your life, you want to make them proud, you want to make them happy. So in some aspects, like you're gonna glean from pleasing your mom and your grandma, you're gonna be able to be like, what does my girlfriend find impressive about me, and like how can I do those things? So protecting,
Mm-hmm.
being someone who stands up and says and stands alongside someone, like standing alongside Jada when she boycotted the Oscars. That wasn't Will's idea, but he was there in solidarity with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was an interesting tidbit. Another question James Lipton asked that I thought was interesting is more like how he led into it was like, there's two difficult transitions for an actor typically. It's from childhood to adulthood roles, and
Mm-hmm.
then from TV success to movie success.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like I didn't know that, but it's like it's James Lipton and how he put it. And I was like, that is so true. Like there's so many child actors who don't cut it as an adult and
Mm-hmm.
can't really find like, their groove or like break away from who they were known as a child star. And then there's plenty of actors who were huge on TV shows and iconic roles and such, but never make it to movie success and,
Mm-hmm.
big screen success. And not that they don't try, but, I don't know. There's just, there's a lot of variables that happen in those things. And it always intrigues me
Mm-hmm.
when those things happen. So the fact that Will was able to do that, like in so many ways, from being a teenage rapper to
Mm-hmm.
being on a TV show and acting and not having it be like primarily about his rapping or his rap persona or career, and having it be different from that enough for him to be able to be on a TV show like that and then do movies at the same time throughout, and then be able to leave the show and continue like to have this huge movie career.
Mm-hmm.
Like impressive. So,
Yeah.
and I mean like we said before, like it's true too for a lot of rappers. Like a lot of them sometimes they play similar to like, they'll play like tough guy roles, or they'll be in movies that are very much about like that culture, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like they're able to break away from that. I mean, look at fucking Queen Latifah. Like she was never like gangster rap or anything like that, but like to break away from like just the stigma maybe of hip hop
Mm-hmm.
and be able to ascend and be in something like Chicago and
Ugh,
all these
Bessie
things.
Smith.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was a great question. What do you?
Oh, I thought that was great. It might be a little unfair to categorize him as child actor per se, since he
Yeah.
was, but I understand too, at least for the ideal of being like pigeonholed to the thing that really gets you famous or well known in terms of like film and television. People knew who Will Smith was prior to The Fresh Prince, but The Fresh Prince absolutely no doubt like changed the entire trajectory of his life. And um it is really difficult to break away from that persona, because I think that's where the Will Smith was Will Smith
Mm-hmm.
stigma comes from, that we talk so much about in our show. And that it was probably difficult for him in his early roles, which is why I'm excited when we go to our next segment about talking about roles that really surprised me throughout this season, because there were things that Will did really early on in his career that I don't think was really expected for someone's like first role.
Yeah. Should we go to that and then close with like his like James Lipton's like questions?
Sure.
Because I think that's a good segue. So,
Yeah.
um, I'm curious what you're talking about.
So, the first role that I wrote down that really surprised me for Will was his
So this
role.
is your surprising list, like movies that
Correct.
surprised you. Okay.
Correct. This movie does not make my top five faves. And it's also not my top five fave role. But it was the first thing that came to mind of roles that really surprised me. And that was his role as Paul in 6 Degrees of Separation, because he talks about this in the James Lipton episode, was his true deep dive and commitment to that role. I think he just really took that first role and ran with it. And you can see how hard he was really trying. I think he felt like maybe he had a lot to prove coming from Fresh Prince and being like, I want to do something that people don't expect from me.
Yeah.
And for the fact that he used to get teased so much about his acting in The Fresh Prince, he's like, oh, I'm going to show you. And he
Well,
did.
yeah, and well, 6 degrees of separation too is like so smart because I feel like it does get him out of that being only seen one way as a TV star. And I think that's where a lot of TV stars may get hemmed up. Sometimes it's kind of like the acting version of the like, I'm no longer on Disney. Like, I'm a woman. Like, look at my boobies. And like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm not a girl, not yet a woman,
Truly.
kind of transition. And so sometimes, because I saw a tweet, I think, about like who are some actors who were like huge TV stars that like you would have thought would have been able to like change over or make that switch to being like movie stars. And like one of them was Topher Grace from That 70s Show. And yeah, he was Venom in the Spider-Man 3, but like that kind of was clunky. That wasn't impressive, to people, but that was like that probably was his aim at being like, I'm this really likable, lovable kind of
Mm,
guy on That 70s Show, and now I get to play the villain in a Spider-Man movie. Maybe that will give me some distance from Eric.
mm.
And I don't think that was the best choice, but it was kind of a similar like, okay, this is a way different than how people are used to seeing me, but I don't think it was the good kind of different that Paul was for Will, where it's like,
Mm.
wow. Um,
That's a really good point. Hmm.
yeah, Paul's a great choice. That was not in my. I think I went about surprising differently. like I,
Oh.
I think I put like movies I was surprised that like I liked or like what they were
Mm,
about was unexpected to me.
okay.
But yeah, that role definitely was like surprising, like especially so early, like you
So
said.
early, yes.
Well, on my surprising list, I don't think this is in any kind of order. I'm not sure what I was thinking, but I have Gemini Man.
Mm.
Um, that was more so surprising to me just because like I talked about in the episode, like I did remember seeing things about like, yeah, it's the technology's still like kind of wonky, it's not that great, but I
Hmm.
was impressed by it. Like I was like, you know what, this is interesting. It might not be the best that can ever happen with this, but somebody has to start somewhere, and this is an
Hmm.
interesting take and usage of this, and I don't think it was terrible. Like I'm never bargain bin. Like if I saw this in the bargain bin, I would buy a copy of
Yeah, yeah.
Gemini Man. So maybe that could be a segment: bargain bin movies.
Oh,
Um,
what's in the bargain bin yank and discard pile. It's like when you see the $1 candies at Walmart and you have to dig through the goobers to get like the good things.
but roles, I don't know if it would be any different. I mean, Gemini Man, the characters and roles weren't like surprising or impressive to me, but the technology.
Yes, that
What
was
else is
pretty
in your
impressive.
list?
For roles that surprised me coming up in number, and this was the only time that I labeled them one, two, and three, but I don't think that there was like a particular order. But coming up in number two was his role as Ben in 7 Pounds. I think this was in both like shocking in the movie and his dedication to the character of Ben. And there's some like twists and turns that really took me by surprise. Um, and I think you don't always correlate Will Smith to like a heavy tearjerker and a heavy topic like suicide. But this was the movie that you and I both needed to like lay down and think about for a while. And it just was so jarring, but also so well done and heartfelt and emotional in a different way from how Pursuit of Happiness is. And it's one of those less talked about movies, which is a shame.
Yes, yes. This is also on my surprising list for the same reasons. This is definitely the existential crisis movie of the season. Of like,
Truly.
huh, let me reevaluate some things. I vaguely knew what 7 pounds was about, but I definitely didn't know what I was in for. So
Hmm.
it was beautifully surprising in that way. I didn't know Rosario Dawson was in it. I didn't
Hmm.
know Woody Harrelson was in it for his little stint. So yeah, all of those hell Michael Ealy
Hmm.
too played his brother. But yeah, all those little things like and yeah, just shooketh like
Hmm.
shooketh. Something that I don't know if it's on your list, but so since 7 pounds is off my list, I think you saw this. But I Am Legend was a big deal for me because I had never seen it, which is like, what? How could you not? A lot of people bring up I Am Legend.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I just had never seen it because I'm not a dystopian movie fan.
Mm.
Like, I live in a dystopian world at this point in my mind. Um, so I had avoided it, but it was way different than I thought it would be in terms
Hmm.
of the dystopian take and then having survived a pandemic
Hmm.
and a virus sweeping through the world. It was very interesting to watch after that life fact occurred to all of
Hmm.
us. So that one was like, wow, like I'm kind of happy I had never seen it and was able
Yeah.
to experience it that way. But yeah, I was like, you know what? Like, man, impressed. Like, so
Yes. Yes. That role's on a different list of mine, but my third and final role that surprised me out of all of them was Howard in Collateral Beauty because that was a lot of silent acting. Will Smith was very withdrawn in his character
mhm.
as Howard. There was a lot of nonverbal acting, a lot of like what's in your head acting, and then the thick tears at the
Oh, yes.
end was just like, oh my God. Like you can tell at that point that he had really worked on his craft. And like, I think about the episode of The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when his dad comes back and then leaves and he has the moment with Uncle Phil. We just talked about it last week. How come he didn't want me? And he cries and James Avery supposedly was just like that's how you do it. You know, like when
Yeah.
he's like pulling him in for a hug, right? And
Yeah.
then to go all the way to be able to do what he did in Collateral Beauty was just like such a fun thing for me. Not only was that cast also banging, so I was just like
Yes.
constantly surprised by like what with all those people coming in. But it was his acting that like really drew me into that kind of storyline that I might maybe traditionally dismiss.
Yeah. Collateral Beauty is on my list too, for all those reasons. The banging ass cast. I did not know he did a movie with Ed Norton, Kate Winslet, Helen Mirren, like Jacob
Keira
Latimore,
Knightley.
Keira Knightley, like all of these like top tier actors, Naomi Harris,
Ugh.
and on top of that, like you said, his acting was amazing. But I was not prepared to get fucked up for this movie. I
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
I
oh,
was like,
maybe this is like, a Friends like movie or like some kind of romance or like Crazy Stupid Love, or he's just not that into you or something. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was not prepared to be like on the floor of my like room like, oh my god. Like that is acting going on. So that was a beautiful surprise for me. And so I had two other movies on my list. Spies in Disguise was a surprise for me because I was so ready to not like that movie just off the strength of him being a pigeon. But it was funny and enjoyable, and I hope animation figures out the person to animal trope and does away with it or limits the usage that they use that for future movies, because that's a big like for me. But I talk about this movie with people, like especially parents. I'm like, or grandparents who have like at work mostly, but like people I work with who have like grandkids or young kids. I'm like, oh, have you ever seen Spies in Disguise? It's so funny. Like you might like it because it's such an enjoyable movie as an adult, and I think obviously kids, it's a target audience too. So,
mhm.
but besides that, Hitch was also a big one for me because
Okay.
that was another movie I was prepared to like not like, because I was like, oh, it's a guy's rom com and he's like
Mm,
Mr. Smooth date doctor guy and he's gonna fall in love with his client or whatever, and realize that his smooth, like charming, like ways aren't gonna work. But it was like that, but not like that, in the sense that like his intentions with helping these men fall in love with women and date well,
mhm.
to me, were good. They weren't like some like, women don't know what they want, like let's manipulate them kind of thing, which
Yeah.
I mean it kind of was. But it was done in a good like I can be a woman and not be like, ah, I hate this. Like,
Mhm.
so Hitch surprised me, and I would happily watch that if I saw it on TV, which it is on TV a lot. So moving on, what's the next list of the night?
Should we do top? Let's see. I'm just wondering which one should we leave for last because we made a couple more lists. Our top five favorite movies, top five favorite roles, and if they have crossover appeal between the other lists, and then our least favorite movies and slash movies that did not age well.
And I did you do a recommendation movie? I would
Yes, I
save
have a
that for
recommendation
last.
movie and then fave femmes, like fave female co-stars, and then I have some FMKs.
Oh, geez.
Mhm.
I forgot to do that.
That's okay.
Let's do least. Let's like bad news
Okay.
first.
Okay. Okay. You want to say on the count of three? One, two, three.
Legend of
Legends of
Bagger
Bagger.
Vance.
LBV, even for the
Not
historical
LBV.
the movie that
Acronyming it.
shall not be named. Uh, Even for the historical context, the movie does not age well. It still is mystifying that that's the one that gets 4 stars in Lil Raj. I'm eager for Emancipation to come out. Maybe that will be better. Who knows? But like, it's I'm glad I watched it. Don't get me wrong. The cat like Charlize Theron, Matt Damon, fine. Like the cast was okay, and I understand it's a golf legend sports motivation movie, but I if I'm gonna pick a sports movie, it's I would choose Ali over that any day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you listen to the episode, obviously, like, we definitely
Yeah,
say so many points why we didn't like that movie. My biggest thing was the magical Negro trope,
of course. Yeah.
which, like, I learned about, I knew about it kind of and researched more because of the movie, and it's, like, definitely in a standout list of movies where this occur.
Hmm.
So that's a big red flag. The fact that Jada Pinkett Smith does not like this movie and it's her least
Hmm.
favorite of her husband's movies is another great point. So
Hmm.
definitely not a movie that's bad for any like, oh, like the story was just all over the place. I couldn't get into it. Like it's just like not a story that was necessary to tell in any regard in my
Yes, yes. And in many cases, like uncomfortable to watch at some point.
yeah.
It's not that the acting was bad, it was just like, oh, this is just
Why?
feels why. Um,
Banger
a,
cast though.
a banger cast. But anyways, the second one for me was Shark Tale.
That's my second too.
I had a great time recording with Samantha. I think like recording and making that episode was fine, but it's
Aged like milk.
it aged like milk.
The
There's just
animation
the
aged like
animation's
milk. Like
bad. The storyline was like, talk
banger
about
cast
an
again.
banger cast. We got
Right.
Jolie, we got Jack Black, we got Renee Zellweger, we got Robert fucking De Niro of all people.
Martin Scorsese.
Martin fucking Scorsese, the Marley Brothers, it's anyways, so silly, but
Missy Elliott, Christina Aguilera on the
yeah,
soundtrack.
great, good
Like,
soundtrack,
yes,
but
banging soundtrack. But
I mean, talk about you just mentioned Hitch with like the plot line of a manipulative man.
which
Ugh.
Oscar was. Oscar was kind of like a hobosexual.
What is a
Some people.
homosexual?
So it's this thing. It's probably mostly on Black Twitter, but it's like men who don't really have jobs or definitely not a place to stay, and so they will court you and get into a relationship with you so that they have somewhere to stay, like, but nothing to offer.
Got it.
So basically scammers, love
A scrub?
bombers. Yeah, a scrub.
Hmm.
Yeah, so stay away from those guys. But my third is iRobot, which
Okay, I didn't put that one down.
again, not necessarily in like a particular order. Yes, Legend of Bagger Vance had to go first for me, and
Hmm.
Shark Tale was second technically in my list. But iRobot was for me just because I definitely remember this movie coming out, the hype around the movie. A lot of people like this movie. I think it's nostalgic for a lot of people.
Hmm.
And watching it for the first time as an adult, I just wasn't like, I don't have that connection. So I was like, it was okay. Like, I love a mystery. I love a crime show, movie, a thriller. But like, this movie didn't do it for me. Like, on those
Yeah.
aspects, like, that aspect of the movie wasn't strong to me, and it could have
Yes.
been. And
Of all the
so,
action movies, I like this is not the one I'm going to recommend for people to watch.
yeah. So I mean, watch it, like it, enjoy it, but it's definitely like, if I saw iRobot on the TV, I would be like, And I hardly say that about movies we watch for the show because I feel like, we've done this journey. So, it's honorable to be like, you know what? why not for old time's sake? But I'm not going to be able to do it for iRobot, Shark Tale, or Legend of Bagger Vance. Maybe Shark Tale, just because of the banger soundtrack. Like, but yeah. What's next for you?
After Earth. And it was more about the role and not the movie for this one. I thought After Earth as a movie was not as bad as a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people thought it was, but
That
Will Smith,
almost made my surprise for that
interesting.
reason.
Yes, yeah, that movie did take me by surprise. And but the role of him just being so cold and distant, I felt like it was more Jaden's movie than his movie. And maybe that's the way it was kind of meant to be anyways, but I still couldn't forgive the fact that even at the end, like he just he's still so stoic, just like God fucking damn it, just hug your kid, man.
Yeah. That did not make my least faves. I feel like I would give After Earth a glance if I saw it. But sorry to this movie, but Where the Day Takes You is my next
Okay.
because it has that unfortunate appeal of Nurses on the Line. Like it's just that early movie that's
Yeah.
like so early that it's like but like for its time, like the subject matter is great and all that. His role's really small in it, so it's like why would I rewatch it? I'm not watching it for Dermot Mulroney like in Ricky Lake, I'm sorry, but or Balthazar Getty, like banger cast again, but like a young Alyssa Milano too, like Laura
Hmm.
Flynn Boyle, but like yeah, I'm just that was a one and done for me. I probably wouldn't rewatch.
Yeah, I didn't even write that one down anywhere on the list because it was just so such a blip. But you're so
Yeah.
right. A total Nurses on the Line, Nurses in the Wild, Nurses Gone Wild. We could see like go back to season one. We couldn't even get the movie title of that one straight because we were it was so
Nurses on
small.
the Line crashes. Frozen. Like, well, and I think they changed around the name a lot too. Like
Right.
some
It had
places,
like two different TV names.
yeah. So, yeah. Sorry to that movie.
Oh my God. Another one for me in terms of least favorite was Bright. I was excited for him to do a fantasy role. It intrigued me, the like overall story of it, and again, banger cast. I liked his chemistry with oh,
Joel Edgerton.
thank you, Joel Edgerton. But I think it just kind of got too like messy in some spots, but the like overarching like political message, police message behind it, I can get with and understand like their intention on making it. But I remember that was like one of Netflix's most expensive movies to make to date and how it was just like, oh,
Yeah.
not a lot of payoff for that hard work.
Yeah, that's actually one of my surprising movies because, like, I heard, like, oh, this it's supposed to be like it's this expensive ass movie for Netflix, and it didn't really do that well for them, I guess. But I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, so that's why it's surprising.
Mm-hmm.
But uh, it's funny because this was on your surprising list, but and I agree. But 6 Degrees of Separation again is just like a not like I wouldn't go back and be like, you know what, let me put on 6 Degrees of
Mm-hmm.
Separation. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was a one and done. It was very educational, very helpful, I think, in the journey again of being able to see Will in a different light and to see like his early career choices and how smart they were really. And again, banger cast. Donald Sutherland's daddy, it's Donald Sutherland,
Yeah,
right?
it is Donald.
That's
You're thinking
Kiefer
of Kiefer, the
Sutherland's
Kiefer
daddy.
Sutherland and Stalker
Is
Channing.
Donald Sutherland.
Yes.
Yes, Stalker Channing, these great, very notable actors. A random Anthony Michael Hall, but
Oh, right.
but yeah, it's just a movie I wouldn't rewatch again. And it's just so, I think it's really dated too. I would actually love to see somebody reboot that, especially with how much like scams and stuff are like in media now. You have like
Oh
Being
yeah.
Anna and all these things, the Tinder swindler, WeWork, and all these other things. So I think it's actually like relevant, but it just needs to be updated. Like the way Paul spoke, them,
Yes.
going on about cats and, uh, them talking about Cezanne or like the paintings and all that uppity
Yes.
upper crust, like 80s yuppie shit. Like, doesn't, I'm not rewatching.
Agreed. It's a movie that can still hold its own if it had a modern reinterpretation of it. I think it still has appeal, and it's always a little difficult, in my opinion, to make a play into a movie and have it not feel like a play. And I think that they did a pretty good job. They had scenery changes inside, outside. I've seen movies where it's been a literal one room play where it's just kind of pans out like a dollhouse view of different rooms and stuff. And that can feel a little like stifling as an audience member if you know that you're not already at a play.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think that there definitely is room for a remake for that. But one role that it's not necessarily a least favorite movie, but I would like to acknowledge that although this movie serves a lot of nostalgia purposes for me, I know Wild Wild West like does not age well. It does not hold up to today.
I just think what Barry Sonnenfeld wanted to do was not like he couldn't do that, and then so his plan B wasn't that great. But I think I haven't seen the TV show Wild Wild West, but there has to be room for it. And like in the episode, I remember being like, I can understand why Will would have wanted to do this movie. Like,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I feel like from that vein, I could understand why someone would be like, the materials here, just the execution was like
It was a
too
hot
much.
mess. And I know you can go back and listen to the episode. I gave that 4 stars because I was just like, I
Hey,
fucking love this stupid movie.
you
It's
can't.
so bad.
You should get docked or something for that. It can't be 4 stars for you, and then on your least
No, it's
favorite.
not on my least favorite. I
Oh,
would like to
okay.
separate them. It's not on my least favorite. It's not my
It's
favorite.
on your didn't age
It's
well.
on my it's the one that I feel like in tandem with Legends of Bagger Vance just doesn't age well. And
Okay.
I still if that was on TV I'd be like, all right. Like I need to get
I see.
just
I would. That's why I didn't make mine because I was like, Loki. I would watch Wild
yeah.
Wild West on TV
I
just
would.
as like.
Yeah. I'd get
But
a Burger
yeah.
King toy. But I can acknowledge that this can be a favorite of mine for nostalgic purposes, but also be like,
Okay.
I caramba. So,
Um.
are you ready to go into favorite
Top.
roles?
Okay. This is different from favorite movies.
Correct.
Okay.
They may have crossover appeal. Mine, only one does.
Oh wow. Okay.
I tried to be a little different
I
for
didn't
different.
make a list, so I'm gonna. Even though I like made up what we were gonna talk about. So I'm gonna let you start, and I'm gonna work on mine.
Okay, no problem. I'll start with my number one, and then everything after this goes in no particular order, but this one absolutely is my number one. And my favorite role is Dr. Robert Neville in I Am Legend. This is a top tier blockbuster employee pick. No more late fees for me. Like it's the first movie that I remember watching as a um I don't want to say kid, but high schooler, you're still a kid. That really made me feel that Will Smith was different, like a different actor. I can really see the change. And just I like zombie movies. I like post-apocalyptic movies, and these zombies were creepy, different, fast, scary. This movie also you know, has a lot of sad appeal to it. But
Sad.
sad appeal, you know what you're getting into when you see a movie with the co-star that's a fucking dog. But anyways, the scene that always gets me is when he's at the movie store and he has the mannequin set up and he was just like, please talk to me. I can't get that out of my head.
Yeah, that was a doozy. Roles, I would say my favorite character he played. I don't think this goes in any order for me, but I love Enemy of the State. So
I put
his
that down as
role,
number 2.
yeah, his role as what's his name in Enemy of the State? I want to say
Robert
Robert.
Clayton.
Okay, yeah. So close, Robert Neville. I was like, is it Robert again? But
Hmm.
yes, okay. So him as Robert in Enemy of the State, I really loved because I feel like we haven't seen this again with Will, but like
Hmm.
he's like this lawyer and he's like so just like smart, but also like a man who's made some mistakes, a family man, um, a man on the run, a man trying to piece stuff together.
Hmm.
And I think Will typically, and I think Jaden has criticized him in this, and probably I think as a very young kid, but like he notoriously is the guy who saves the world.
Hmm.
And once, Independence Day, all the bad boys move, Men in Black, he's there to save the day. And Enemy of the State, he was on the defense a lot in that movie.
Mm.
So I think that's what I love about that character. But, and the suspenders. But,
Oh,
but yeah.
yes. I put this down, I guess in no particular order too, but it just so happened to be under I Am Legend, because I love, not love, I enjoyed all of the different action movies for different reasons, but I particularly liked Enemy of the State because it's a different kind of action movie than Bad Boys, than Men in Black might be, certainly different from um, Bright and Suicide Squad and Hancock and stuff. I just thought that this was like the first very serious action movie. This reminded me of a movie that like Harrison Ford could have been in as well. And again, had great cast with Gene Hackman, and really liked all of the stunt work, and he ran so much. He ran so much in that movie. I appreciated that.
My next, um, I would say Mike Lowry. Um, I think just because we get to see him multiple times and get to see his growth, or not really any growth,
Hmm.
but also he's just like really hot as Mike a lot of the time.
Hmm.
And I think it's interesting too that this is a role that Will like has said that Mike is someone that I love playing because it's not who I like. It's kind of a part of me that I don't really get to be in real life.
Hmm.
And so I think that says a lot about Will and his like perfect image sort of thing. But I do think like Mike is funny and cool and suave and just like Mr. Badass, like shoot first, ask later.
Hmm.
And into the dynamic with Martin, like, he really gets to like riff and be like pretty funny, and he curses a lot. I
Hmm.
think that's probably the role he curses the most in is
Hmm.
Mike.
Hmm.
So that correlates too with like my favorite.
The next one on my list is his role as Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay in Ali, because this was the first film we saw where he played a nonfiction character, like a historical figure. Um, I know how much dedication he put into that role in terms of training and working out. He talked about that on the James Lipton episode too, but you can also go back and listen to our Ali episode with how much he was running, how he would go into the boxing ring just to like learn how to box, but then also choreograph and watch video footage of Muhammad Ali and his fighting, and to also have Ali alive watching
Mm-hmm.
him doing his role, providing feedback. He was so cut and buff in that movie too. Like he looked really good.
Yeah, 200 something pounds of pure
A
man
muscle.
meat.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Ali is not in my favorite roles. I think it's a great role and definitely like a turning point for Will, but I'm gonna go Oscar movie for Oscar movie with the winner, King Richard. I think
Yeah.
Richard Williams is one of my favorite roles, and I think because I think, oddly enough, not I think because I think, but oddly enough, in his Oscar speech, he talks about like learning, like he's feeling this calling in his life to protect people and be a protector and all these things, and I think Richard Williams, this role as a reflection of him as a father growing and putting in the work and, trying to be better and, learning some things about his kids and trying to adjust and learn. And I think that shows a lot in this role, like how he was able to capture that spirit of a dad with a dream and a plan for his kids, and not in some pushy stage mom dad kind of way, but in a like, if you work hard and if you focus and if you really believe in yourself, and I'm going to be the person who's going to believe in you and tell you that you're great before you know you're great, before anybody else knows you're great. And so I don't know, that role just really resonated with me, and I think it's like one of his strongest family roles, and it's a positive, movie. We
Hmm.
have lots of standout performances, but they're all sappy. Like
Yes.
Pursuit of Happiness is sad, 7 Pounds is sad, Collateral Beauty is sad. So King Richard and Richard Williams being like in that, like, to me, in that level of movie for him, but being like this beautiful, uplifting family story is
Hmm.
top tier, chef's kiss.
Yes. Yes.
What's that? 3 for me?
Yes, we're three for three. Next one on my list is Agent J in Men in Black. That was I think Men in Black for me holds higher nostalgia definitely than, like, I got into Bad Boys for the sake of this podcast. I
Oh.
didn't really like I knew and understood its value and following and fanfare. But I think definitely watched two and three for the first time. And so I feel like I appreciated them, but was always like excited to do Men in Black, even though Men in Black 2 was like, but I loved Men in Black 3. So I liked, that series. And, there's something very special about doing that for the first time between Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. Um, the duality of their screen relationship was always very fun. And Will, um, I think, grew a lot as a character throughout that series with getting three movies. Agent J changes, and I appreciated that it wasn't just like same shtick comedy. Like, of course, there were some similar comedic moments, but for the most part, his character changed and developed, and so did Mike Lowry. But I felt like Jay was just, you know.
Yeah, Mike Lowry could have used some character development. Very much a not a bird of a feather, but very much the same man he was before sometimes. My other pick, Hitch. Okay,
Mm,
yeah. Um, I liked him more than I thought I would. I think this. I wish Will did more rom coms
yeah, me
too.
too.
I think he's so good at it. Like it really, like where J Lo is so good at it, and she's like, "I'm really good at this. This is my bread and butter."
Hmm.
It could have easily been Will's bread and butter too. Like, and even not if it was like continuously, but for a nice stretch, kind of like how Matthew McConaughey had. Those were like, movies he could like kind of make a name for himself in.
Mm. So, in additionally to being a rom-com superstar, was there anything else about that character in Hitch that you really liked?
He looked really good. Like
Oh,
his
so
hair
handsome.
was like one of his favorite haircuts for me.
Hmm.
Stylish. I loved his I think he had this stereo in there that I was like, oh, like his apartment and
Mm,
like all
he had
that
a whole
stuff.
apartment. Yeah.
Yeah, so lovely vibes. Like
Also,
nice
that was a
aesthetics.
fun episode to record. We did it again with our friends Julie and Joe. And that movie had a lot of influence on Joe, so it was interesting hearing his perspective on why that was one of his favorite
Yes,
movies.
it's nice to have a male perspective on here
Yeah,
sometimes.
especially on a rom-com movie,
Just
even though it's a male rom-com. Okay, last but not least, a role that I really enjoyed was another doctor role. His role as Dr. Bennett Omalu in the movie Concussion. I think Will did a great job at telling this side of a story that was a very influential um, story to have come out. Um, and I think I remember there being some like bad rap about his accent. I thought it was fine. And I
It's funny, I
liked,
just saw someone say his accent for emancipation is bad. So, and they
oh,
said his accent, and someone commented, and I was like, yeah, King Richard, that was weird too. And I was like,
it was a very like Louisiana
but like, my
accent.
thing is, like, Venus and Serena liked it. So who are
Yeah.
you? Like, that's their dad. Like, if it was off, they would definitely would have been like,
Mm,
but it
yeah.
was different enough from Will too. I think sometimes that gets lost,
Yes.
you know.
Yes, that's true. Because it's, again, it's the unexpected piece. And overall, I remember that it didn't make my like top five favorite movies, but just as a role overall, because of um, the determination to push through and fight against the NFL is no easy feat. And again, banging cast, and I enjoyed that movie a lot.
Yeah. That was a surprise for me. That could have been on that list because remember, I thought that movie was about him being a football player that had a
Right.
concussion. So that was a fun surprise for me and a good one. But I'm having a hard time closing out number five because, like, I looked back at my list of his movies and, like, there's so many. It's really hard to pick.
Mm,
I want to say Aladdin, kind of,
mm.
because I really liked his genie, and I think he did a good job of making it his own. But, like, also I want to say Deadshot and Suicide Squad, kind of. But then I also want to be like, well, Hancock was great too. So, maybe I'll go Hancock just because I feel like I really liked Hancock, and I think too that was a role we hadn't seen Will in. Like, he is an alcoholic. He was just very out of perfect kind of charming Will Smith
Indeed.
character. His first superhero role, which, like, a great spin on a superhero and very funny, but in a very different way from how
Hmm.
we were used to, just in a very deadpan, like, kind of like, you need to sue McDonald's for whatever they're feeding you, those like one liners. And I really wish they had did a sequel. Like, it really bums
Yeah.
me out that they, like, because I think that movie did well. So
Hmm.
it really bums me out that they didn't see potential in it to continue. But all that to say, I think I'm gonna go with those other
Okay.
two. Great too. It's hard to pick because, like, really he doesn't have any like very terrible characters that are
Mm.
just like, oh, I hated him in this role. Like, the movies might not be that great, but, like, for the most part, his roles.
Hmm.
Now,
Favorite movies.
favorite movies.
All right. I'm going to go 5-1. I'm going to go backwards for this one.
Okay.
Okay. This is also cheating. In a tie for my top two for number five, I have King Richard and The Pursuit of Happiness. I liked King Richard overall as a movie as a total more than I did the role in particular. Overall, I think that movie just was so fantastic and so well done, in addition to Pursuit of Happiness. And I think both were movies that were cheated in different ways in terms of accolades and nominations and awards and stuff. Um, and I think that the special tie that I have to Pursuit and Bay Area movie. I liked Jaden more in that movie than in After Earth. Like, so I felt like there was that extra special piece to it with being father and son.
If I'm going backwards on my list, I Am Legend. Not necessarily my number 5 or last, but that's the last one I wrote down. I like I Am Legend. It was a surprise for me. It was really good. I just think it's clearly one of those standout movies for him that a lot of people like. And so I think to me being surprised that I liked a dystopian movie, and I would definitely watch it again, probably, maybe, despite that. But yeah.
Under coming in at number 4 for me, and I guess you're right, there's no particular order, maybe with the exception of number 1, but coming in at 4 for me is Bad Boys 1. Overall, as a movie, I enjoyed it. I appreciate the Michael Bay-ness of it all, even though it's like so, typical action, over the top, damsel in distress role. But it just, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith's chemistry and friendship and camaraderie for this role was never missed on me. And even though I gave Bad Boys 2 a lower rating, I still haven't gone back to do my rewatch of him yet, but I have a feeling that my rating of it right now would probably be different from what I gave it. I still think it's too long, but it's the rats fucking thing is still like, I thought back on it again. I was like
us.
Just like us. So silly.
I'm cheating with number 4. I have it as a tie with Hancock and Hitch.
Okay.
So I just think they're fun movies.
Mm-hmm.
I just talked about like why I liked his characters, but like they're fun, and like I said, like I would easily watch them again. Like, and I think that's a big part of this list for me, is like how rewatchable movies are for me, which is rare, but yeah. So Hancock and Hitch. I don't know why they're tied for this spot, but maybe it's the H. But yeah, they're a good fun watch for me.
Nice. One of the crossovers that I had from favorite roles goes into favorite movies, and that is Men in Black. The first one for sure. Hits that nostalgia button, hits the slime, hits the goose, hits the, talking pug. We love it. And alien movies exist, but not in this.
Be that old lady who's like, they don't make them like this anymore, because they don't. They don't make fun, just like kind of over the top kitschy movies like that. I feel, even thinking about like movies like Richie Rich or like Blank Check, like we're in the movies with kids doing dumb stuff or being like obscenely like rich or cool, like maybe I mean we're not watching them because they're not making them for us, but I don't know. Yeah, so yeah, I don't think there's a movie like Men in Black as a I can't think.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
My next one, I have King Richard. I feel like this, not that I don't like it, like it's not my top fave anymore. Like I really like it, really rewatch. I had seen it before, had to watch again for the show, and would watch it again. I'm just wondering if there's funner in there. Like part of me wants to tie this with Focus of all things, just because like I want to see Margot Robbie again. But I guess I'll stick with King Richard. I don't know.
Okay.
This is hard. I don't think this was as hard last season.
Yeah. But it's also, I think we can get into our heads when we're trying to come up with like a rationale or explanation as to why, because sometimes it's like, I don't know, it just is.
Like, this is not me being objective as like a Lil Raj critic. Like, this is not my top 5 Will Smith movies of all time. Like, this is my personal, like,
yes, yeah,
would watch, would buy again, were to no more late fees. But this is my personal, like, I'm rewatching the fuck out of these movies lists.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
don't
Yeah.
take
Yeah.
it as like critically acclaimed movie, story, plot, character, all that stuff. Like, no.
Stick with it. So the next one on my list is one that we haven't even talked about yet. Independence Day. This is a 4 out of 4 for me. I think obviously for nostalgia reasons. A 4th of July classic. Bangin' cast. That is, if you haven't drank to or taken a drink for every time we say that, you should go back and
Yeah,
start
that's
it
a
again.
good drinking game for this episode.
Maybe
Banger cast.
maybe I'll put in a warning of like, if you're listening to this at home and you'd like to play a game with us, to you know, I gotta give it to Jeff Goldblum. But anyways, this is like the precursor to Men in Black when it comes to dealing with aliens and overtaking society. Different tone, of course, overall for like disaster movie versus like funny buddy cop alien movie. But it just can't get over Boomer the dog, Vivica Fox. I mean, just it's all so good, and I know for sure I will always be watching this at least once a year.
Yeah, see, Independence Day was a movie that I like had not seen fully, but it's always on TV, and like watching it as an adult, like I'm not nostalgic about it, so like I could rewatch it, but I wouldn't be like, "Oh, Independence Day is on," or like, "You know what? I want to watch Independence Day." Like despite all that. So, and like funnily enough, like as nostalgic, Men in Black is nostalgic to me, but like I would rewatch them, but like again, like they're oddly not like they would be in my critically acclaimed like kind of not even critically acclaimed, but like they're in his blockbuster like big movies, like
Yeah.
good big movies he's done.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like I'm letting people down on my list. So my next
No.
one is Enemy of the State. A lot of this correlates with my favorite characters. Maybe that was poor of me, but I like I said in the episode, oddly enough, this is a movie I saw in theaters. I remember it. I fondly definitely have rewatched it when it's come on TV. It's kind of one of my maybe this is why I like these kinds of movies, but I love a thriller. I love like a movie where you're trying to figure out like what's going on as you're watching it, and like maybe you rewatch it and catch some new things. I don't love uh like uh like the government is watching you
Oh, yes.
type of thing, but you know this one really works and appeals to me. I love all the satellite like bad, well now bad
Beep, beep, beep,
90s
beep, beep,
tech,
beep, 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 beep. Yeah, really
but
zooming
yeah.
in there and
Yeah, all that stuff. Banger cast, Gene Hackman. We've got young Seth Green, Jamie
mhm.
Kennedy in here, John Voight. Like,
Oh,
so
right? John. Jason Lee and
yeah,
Regina
young
King.
Regina King, definitely making it in my ladies list.
Yes.
But yeah, I just love Enemy of the State. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Yes, the blueness, the techno of it
I
all.
saw an Enemy of the State poster on eBay, and I was like, I don't know where I'm gonna put all these posters. Like, I got some wall space, but like not like movie posters and promo posters are huge. So I was like, maybe I should get one of those poster cases, like with the lock, and you can just like, okay, this one I
Oh, yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
like.
Like how it is in the store, or like,
Yeah.
or it just keeps all of them in one
No,
foldable
like
thing.
kind of like movie theater, like you know they change them out, and it's like you know,
Yes.
but so that I can like be like this month I'm feeling like you know
Ooh.
I want the Geely poster or Enemy of the State. I did see a U-turn poster too in my search.
That movie poster was good.
Yeah, but anyways, so Enemy of the State.
Yes, so good. My number one favorite movie for Will Smith is I Am Legend.
Hmm. That's
I
funny. It was at the end of my list. It's the top.
mm-hmm. And we do also have like crossover between we
Hmm.
might have like ranked them differently, but I think it just goes to show I think that was interesting that we have at least two to three movies or rules that were the same. But yeah, I can't speak enough about I Am Legend. It's not that I want to watch it continuously because it is sad, but I think that the aloneness of it all, and then you're not alone, and then you got to save the world. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just love that movie. I
I
just think
totally
it's so
forgot
good.
that like Willow was in that and dies. Like, so that was another shock factor why it was on my surprising list. Like, I
Hmm.
wasn't ready for that. My top movies are Bad Boys 1 and 2. They're just nostalgic for
Yeah.
me and fun and enjoyable, and Martin and Will. I feel like this is one of the first things outside of Fresh Prince I remember seeing Will in. So
Hmm.
just, yeah, pure nostalgia. I do think they're great movies. I think they're probably in the top kind of buddy cop movies. Like, I would love to see like a list of like best buddy cop movies or duos and see like where they rank for people, but they're up there
Hmm.
for me.
Hmm.
So I don't know which one I think is better. um Objectively, I would say one. Personally, I don't know which one I would choose. One is very nostalgic, two's nostalgic, but like I kind of feel like it amps it up in a way
Hmm.
that I'm like, yeah, like, so I don't know. But I love them, so they're gonna hold out the top for me.
Yes. Love it. Did you want to talk about some of your favorite female co-stars?
Yeah, I feel like Will, it was easy because like we said this throughout. Like he's like peanut butter. You could put him with anything. Like you could put him
Mm-hmm.
with marshmallow fluff, jelly, nanners, honey. Like,
Yeah.
maybe some. This is that was gross. I was gonna say nut on the action, like Nutella, like other nut butters. I don't know, but yeah. So there's so many, but I think some underrated ones would definitely be Regina King and Enemy of the State. They
Hmm.
had great like married energy. I feel like Lisa Bonet was also cool.
Oh,
I
forgot.
wish
Yeah.
I wish we got more of them. I kind of wish he was having an affair still, and like we got a little like boink session because like
Yeah.
how hot, how hot
It
would
would have
that?
been.
Um, Margot Robbie on the hot
Yes.
scale, definitely like
Of course.
so fun to see their chemistry and hotness together. Early on, Nia Long, to see him with her
Hmm.
and Made in America again was great, and to see them flourish later from that to Fresh Prince is an amazing tie. Vivica Fox too in
Hmm.
Independence Day. Rosario, to see her from like the cute little love interest in Men in Black 2 to like the serious like 7 pounds,
I'm
and I
gonna
think
give
that's
this girl
a
my heart.
yeah, and I think that's amazing growth for both of them because
Hmm.
to go from like Agent J, where we constantly were like, yeah, Will's like playing Will, he's like fun, charismatic, funny and stuff. But to go from that to 7 pounds, this super serious movie that shocked us, and then also Rosario, like again, the cute like girl who works in the pizzeria who's like an alien, and to go to like what did she like? What was her sickness or
She had like congenital heart failure.
yes, to go to like this sickly like artist lady who's like trying to kind of get to know this random man.
Hmm.
Um,
Who's
both
posing as like
amazing.
her tax auditor or something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
crazy. So good.
Um,
She was on my list too. I put Rosario, Margot, Charlize Theron, at least in Hancock for sure. Like
oh,
we recorded that with
and
Jackie
a
and
little
Danielle,
messy.
and we talked a lot about like what would that sex scene would have been like hot, 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 hot. Eva Mendes
Oh
and
yeah,
seeing their grow, even though Hitch didn't really make my like any list for me particular, I still liked their chemistry and relationship.
yeah. And I
Um,
just want to clarify, just because I made a TikTok saying that and talked about J Lo possibly have being really good in Hitch
yes.
in that role, does not mean I don't like Eva Mendes, or that I thought that she was bad, or that they didn't have good chemistry. But yeah,
Yeah.
I liked her in Hitch too. Like, I thought that was a good one. And
Yes.
again, another Miami video
That's
to
it. There's
Hitch.
growth
Like,
and crossover appeal. And I think I put those four women down first because those were, besides Nia Long and Vivica Fox, that they have grown together. They've been in multiple
yeah,
movies, and different movies. Focus is very different from Suicide Squad. Men in Black 2 is different from 7 Pounds, and
that would be a
Bagger
good
Vance is
TikTok.
different from Hancock.
Yeah.
But the other one I put down, which is not a romantic interest, were the girls in King Richard, because we just
Oh
had so much
yeah,
fun talking about them and how hard they worked on set to,
Mr. Will.
yeah, so good.
Shout out to the bevy of beauties. He had like an Ollie as
Ooh, yes.
so many. Michelle Michael, obviously Jada was in
Hmm.
that. Nona Gay, like that one was just like chalk. That was like his movie of Fresh Prince. Like, we have like
Hmm.
a few bangers in here.
Hmm.
Another one I'm looking at too is not a huge one, but in Wild Wild West, Garcelle, that's Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Jamie Foxx
Oh,
show
yeah.
legend. But I they were good looking together, and they dated in real life briefly, like when he was
Oh,
getting divorced. So I have to throw that nugget in there. Garcelle, they were in that little wash tower together. So,
hmm. Hmm.
oh fuck. How could we forget this Gabrielle Union and Bad
Oh,
Bunny? Like,
yes.
talk about hot. Like, those two were definitely steamy. And she was just the right amount of like sassy back too. And I think I think that's a role too that people like looked at Gabrielle Union differently from. I
Yes.
know I did, but yeah, that's a really notable, I feel like, relationship co-star there. Um, but yeah, I'm curious your fuck Mary kill.
Oh, so I put two categories for FMK. I have buddy cop duo. So fuck Mary Kill, Martin Lawrence, Kevin Kline, or Tommy Lee Jones.
Kevin.
Wild Wild West.
Okay. Um, sorry to this man. I would kill Kevin Kline. Are we talking about the movie iterations of them too, or like
Mm,
current day?
I'm say movie iterations, but actors and not characters.
Okay. Okay. I
Yeah.
would kill Kevin Kline,
Mm-hmm.
marry what's his face?
Tommy Lee
Tommy
Jones.
Lee Jones.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't want to kill him, but I don't want to fuck him. And I would fuck Martin Lawrence.
Okay.
So that's weird to say though, because it's like I feel like that's like my uncle.
And that's the clip that the paparazzi is going to take out of context. I would fuck Martin Lawrence.
My uncle.
Because it's like my uncle.
No, it's just like I grew up with him. I grew up with a Martin show and
Yeah.
the movies, so like it's weird. It's even weird. Like, I find Will really attractive. Like, having gone through his Fresh Prince and his like like movies where he's like my age ish,
Mm-hmm.
and to like now he's like 50. He's still
Mm-hmm.
great looking at 50, but like it's weird to be attracted to someone you've seen like get older
Mm-hmm.
and kind of grew up with in some respect, like
Mm-hmm.
watching them. And I think it's different with like maybe someone like Jeff Goldblum, because like he's very like distinct, and like he doesn't really do like kid kind of forward things. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's in Jurassic Park, but he's not necessarily the character like kids would be like, hey, like that's
Right.
my hero, or like, oh, he's so cool. Maybe like you, but later on in life you go back and you're like, damn, he's a hottie, like
Mm-hmm.
posted up in Jurassic Park. But Will's definitely someone I feel who's played people who are kid forward and like funny to kids and like goofy and cool looking. And so I don't know. I feel like when you have people like that, it's like a little weird to be later on like, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
But
wait a minute.
Yeah, like Trey's my age. He's old enough to be my dad. Like, so.
Yeah.
Trey is fine though.
He does. I was just about to say, I was like, he looks really good.
If you're single. What's your pick?
I would marry Martin Lawrence. He seems like someone who would be fun to be married with. It would make me laugh. And I would I would kill, well, yeah, I would kill Kevin Kline. I'd fuck Tommy Lee Jones because I just want him to be like, good, not great, gotta go. And like and just completely destroy me.
I went from uncle and possible dad to like grandpa. Like,
I mean, between the two, more realistically, I would choose like Kevin Kline over Tommy Lee Jones. And Kevin Kline also has like Broadway singing. I feel like we would have fun if it was like that age version of Kevin Kline. But anyways.
Okay, what's your next?
Okay. My next one is blundering sidekicks. Jason Bateman, like from Hancock, Kevin James from Hitch, or I was debating putting this in there. I was between Ed Norton or Matt Damon. So you can choose.
I thought you were going to say Tom Holland from Spies in Disguise.
Oh. Nah, I'm going to keep him out. He's too young.
So Matt or Ed Norton?
Yeah.
Okay, Ed Norton. Fuck Matt Damon. Sorry, Ben. But
okay.
Like,
all right, bye. You're gone.
He's
okay,
in my like shithole Boston guy. Somehow Ben doesn't make that. Like me and Danielle talked about this. She's like, most white guys from Boston. I'm like, and somehow Ben Affleck. I just like I make like an exception for him.
Okay, so take MD out. Edward Norton, Jason Bateman, Kevin James.
I would marry Jason Bateman. I feel like he's that dude. Although Kevin James is really funny. He'd be a good King vibes. Ed Norton's not attractive to me. Okay, maybe I'd change my mind. I'd marry Kevin James. I'd fuck Jason Bateman, and I'd kill Ed Norton.
Same.
Okay. Because I'm like, Jason Bateman's funny, but I think Kevin James would be funnier.
Yeah.
Through the long term.
Yes.
Jason Bateman's more fuckable than Ed Norton for me. So.
Yes. Now, Ed Norton in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Yes, but not this movie era.
But then it's like Ed Norton or Brad Pitt.
But Brad Pitt always.
But so.
BP always.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of about wraps it up. We usually end every episode with a snack and cocktail. And I think we should think of an overall cocktail to represent this season of Will Smith.
Like, we're doing his career?
Yeah. Just like for this season. So maybe like it could be a snacking cocktail or just a cocktail that like represents from where the day takes you up until King Richard. Or we can assign
I think the easy answer would be a charcuterie. Like, it's just like samples of different things. Some things go well together here. Some things go well together there. I don't know.
And this has been another episode.
Okay, yeah.
Just kidding. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for sticking around and from following this IMDb rabbit hole with us. It's been a really interesting episode of growth.
Yes. And please engage with us. Slide into those DMs, those comment sections at us at Roll Call Pod on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. Follow us on YouTube. Let us know your favorite movies, your least favorite Will Smith movies. Movie maybe. Did you watch something as you listened to the season that you didn't watch before? Are there some movies that you would watch because you're following us? Or would you like some recommendations? Oh, we forgot that. Our recommendation.
Oh, okay. All right. My recommendation, if I had to pick,
it's hard.
I know, it's
like,
really
what mood
hard.
are you in? Do you want an action movie? You want to laugh? You want to cry? Okay, movie. What's your recommendation for someone's like, I want to watch like a funny Will Smith movie? What would you recommend?
Men in Black.
Men in Black. I would recommend. I don't know. Say that.
That's funny. It makes me laugh.
Yeah. You know, I really want to be in my feelings. What's Will Smith movies? That's gonna fuck me up.
7 pounds.
7 pounds. I have 7 pounds or Collateral Beauty as my 2 recommendations. So I'll go Collateral Beauty. And what is an action movie that I could just like chill back, drink some brews with my friends, and have a good time?
Independence Day.
Independence Day. I'ma go Wild Wild West. I mean, you'd have a good time.
You would have a good time.
Is there another one? Maybe Hancock or something. But yeah, I think Wild Wild West would be funny. I think everyone should revisit that. Whether
Yes,
you like
you
it or
need
not.
to. Yeah.
So
It's a good LOL. All right. Nice.
So yeah, this has been another episode of
Roll call and cut.
Cut.